Hi, welcome to Growing Dreams Homestead. I'm Dana and my family and I are homesteading on 10 acres in Indiana. It is Tuesday, June 4th, and today was pretty hot. It got up to like 88. I worked out here in the garden most of the morning, and then this afternoon when it was just too hot, Kane and I took a little trip back to the woods to one of our favorite spots, to the creek. I put my little fold-out chair in there and he skipped some rocks and we have fun, and it's probably like 10 degrees cooler down there, so it's a nice spot on a hot day to go hang out. We did have a storm roll through just a little bit ago, so the temperature has dropped like 10 degrees. But I wanted to show you what I got done this morning, and then I wanted to talk to you about trellising tomatoes, the Florida weave style, because my tomatoes are at a size where I need to start getting them strung up. So yeah, let's take a look at what I got done this morning. Alright, so this morning I worked on this corner of the garden, weeding it, and I also replanted some beans and some squash and some nasturtiums and marigolds in here because not everything I planted came up. So I know it doesn't look big on camera, but it's actually a pretty big space, and it took me about an hour and a half to get all that weeded out and reset. As a comparison, here is the other corn patch and how crazy it's looking with its weeds and tons of volunteer tomatoes in there. And here is a look at some of our tomatoes. This side of the garden are the Romas, and they are set between these poles because this is what I will use for the Florida weave method for trellising these tomatoes. Alright, so the Florida weave is a method of trellising tomatoes using string and poles or T-post or something like that. And what we will do is we will tie the string onto one post, and then we will weave it in and out of the tomatoes and then around the next post and come back and go to the other side. So it creates kind of, I don't know, a weave that holds the tomatoes up. And then you do this every 6 inches or so as they grow, and it helps support them. I have done this with twine before in the past, and the twine failed as they got bigger and heavier, so I am using some string that is like nylon, and I used it last year, so I am recycling because this is from last year, and we're gonna get these tomatoes strung up. Okay, here's a view from above. You can see how the twine goes on this side of this tomato, this side of that tomato, and it just weaves back and forth all the way down around the last pole and then comes back on the opposite side. So the Florida weave is just one of 3 ways I trellis tomatoes or support tomatoes in my garden. So all of my determinate tomatoes, which are my paste tomatoes like San Mazzaros, Romas, and Jersey Devils, I use the Florida weave. On my cherry tomatoes, I grow them against a piece of cattle panel fence, and I just tie those to the fence. They are indeterminate and will get really big and go wild, so I give them something strong to support them. And then my beef steaks, I have them in cages, and I will show you those different support methods. Alright, so here are my cherry tomatoes, and there is the cattle panel fence that they will grow on, and I will just take a piece of string and tie those to the fence to support them as they grow. That is getting kind of big. It's kind of a mess, honestly. And I will just take a piece of string and tie this guy to the fence. come back and cut this piece of string, but it's pretty simple. And here are my beefsteak tomatoes, my big slicers that are in cages. They are also indeterminate and will get fairly large, so the cages help hold them up. If you don't trellis your tomatoes or support them in some way, they will grow fairly big and still produce a lot of fruit, but they will grow along the ground, and everywhere that their stems touch the ground, they will send out roots, and a lot of your fruit will be closer to the ground, which is you know, a bigger chance of it getting disease or pests getting it and things like that. It's also a bigger chance for your tomato plant to get disease because it's laying right on the dirt, in contact with the dirt, and you can get blight and things like that. So we like to support our tomatoes. I do let some go a little while just for fun, but the ones that I have intentionally grown with a purpose for canning, I make sure I support those so that they have the best life they can, and so I can get lots of tomatoes from them. Alright, I got all of my cherry tomatoes tied to the fence, and when you are trellising tomatoes, it is a good time to look them over and do some pruning. So I am going to remove any of the lower branches. So like right here, I'm going to come in, cut that off. I cut this one off, and even here. So the more you clean up the bottom of your tomatoes, the less likely they are to get diseased, because most of the disease is from dirt splashing up onto the leaves and spreading bacteria. And I will show you an example of some leaves that I would remove if I saw them. Alright, so here are some romas, and you can see there is some spots and discoloration in these lower leaves, and you can tell it's been touching the ground, and I don't want that to spread to the rest of the plant, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those leaves from my plant. So it's real easy. Just take your snips and pop that off. Okay. Alright, so after you've pruned your tomatoes, you want to make sure to remove any of this debris from the garden, because you don't want it to spread disease back into the soil, breaking down in here. So lucky for me, I have my chickens right next to my garden, so I will just feed this to them. Also, it's a good idea to prune before you do your Florida weave, because you don't want to accidentally snip that twine and all your tomatoes go tumble into the ground. That's no fun. Alright y'all, thanks for hanging out with me while I worked on my tomatoes. I am starting to lose daylight, so I am going to sign off for now. I hope your garden is growing well. Have a good one, and I will see you soon. Bye.